And if someone tells you there's a tunnel hidden beneath those woods, pretend you never heard it. Because some places are buried for a reason. My name is Ethan Walker, and this happened in the fall of 2019. At the time, I ran a small YouTube channel dedicated to exploring abandoned places. Old hospitals, mines, factories, anything forgotten by the world. Most of my videos barely received a few thousand views. Then one email changed everything. The message came from an anonymous account. It contained only 3 sentences. There is an abandoned tunnel beneath Black Hollow Forest. Nobody who enters reaches the end. If you want a real story, go there. Attached was a blurry photograph. It showed a concrete tunnel entrance hidden among trees. At first, I assumed it was a prank, but curiosity got the better of me. After some research, I discovered local legends about Black Hollow Forest stretching back over a century. Hunters disappeared there. Campers vanished. Entire search teams occasionally reported hearing strange noises underground. Most people blamed abandoned mining tunnels. Others believed something else lived beneath the forest. Naturally, that made me want to investigate. 2 weeks later, I arrived. The forest looked ordinary. Dense oak trees, rocky hills, nothing. The passage continued straight for nearly a mile. Then I discovered something strange. The walls changed. Concrete gave way to stone. Perfectly smooth stone. Not natural rock. Carved stone. The deeper I ventured, the older the tunnel appeared. Eventually, it looked less like a modern structure and more like something built thousands of years ago. Symbols covered the walls. Thousands of them. Spirals. Eyes. Human figures. Creatures unlike anything I'd ever seen. I filmed everything. At the time, I thought I had found an undiscovered archaeological site. I had no idea what I had really found. The first sign of trouble came when I checked my phone. No signal. The passage continued straight for nearly a mile. Then I discovered something strange. The walls changed. Concrete gave way to stone. Perfectly smooth stone. Not natural rock. Carved stone. The deeper I ventured, the older the tunnel appeared. Eventually, it looked less like a modern structure and more like something built thousands of years ago. Symbols covered the walls. Thousands of them. Spirals. Eyes. Human figures. Creatures unlike anything I'd ever seen. I filmed everything. At the time, I thought I had found an undiscovered archaeological site. I had no idea what I had really found. The first sign of trouble came when I checked my phone. No signal. That wasn't surprising. What was surprising was the time. My phone claimed it was nearly midnight. That couldn't be right. I had entered the tunnel shortly after noon. At most, I had been underground for 2 hours. Confused, I checked my watch. It displayed the same time. 11:47 p.m. A knot formed in my stomach. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. I decided to leave. I turned around and froze. The tunnel behind me was gone. Instead of a passage leading back to the entrance, there was only a stone wall. Solid. Unbroken. My heart started racing. I examined the wall carefully. No doorway. No cracks. Nothing. The tunnel I had used simply no longer existed. Panic threatened to overwhelm me. I forced myself to stay calm. There had to be another exit. There had to be. The only option was forward. So I continued. The tunnel descended gradually. Farther. Deeper. The temperature dropped. My breath became visible. Then I began hearing noises. Footsteps. Soft. Barely audible. Behind me. Every time I stopped, the sound stopped too. Every time I walked, they resumed. Something was following me. I swung my flashlight around repeatedly. Nothing. Empty tunnel. Yet the footsteps continued. Always matching my pace. Always just beyond sight. After nearly an hour, the tunnel opened into a massive chamber. My flashlight revealed an underground cavern larger than a football stadium. The ceiling vanished into darkness. Ancient stone pillars filled the space. At the center stood a gigantic pit. I approached cautiously. The hole appeared bottomless. No matter how far I aimed my flashlight downward, the beam never reached an end. Then I noticed the chains. Thousands of them. Massive iron chains descended into the abyss. Each one thicker than my arm. Every chain was stretched tight, as if restraining something far below. The sight made my skin crawl. Who could have built this? And what required thousands of chains? Before I could answer those questions, a sound emerged from the darkness beneath me. A voice. My voice. Help me. I stepped back immediately. The voice came again. Ethan. The words echoed upward from the pit. Please help me. My blood turned cold. It wasn't merely similar to my voice. It was identical. Every inflection, every tone, exactly the same. The voice continued. I fell. I can't climb out. Please. The chains began rattling. Slowly, one after another. Metal groaned in the darkness. Something moved below. Something enormous. I ran. Every instinct screamed at me to get away. The voice followed, calling my name, begging, crying, screaming, then laughing. The laughter echoed through the cavern like thunder. A deep, impossible sound. The sound of something pretending to be human. I sprinted into another tunnel on the opposite side of the chamber. Behind me, chains snapped. One, then another, then dozens. The explosions echoed through the underground complex. Dust rained from the ceiling. The ground shook violently. Something was coming. I didn't dare look back. The tunnel narrowed as I ran. Soon it became so tight that my shoulders brushed both walls. The air grew colder. My flashlight flickered, then died. Darkness swallowed everything. Absolute darkness. The kind humans were never meant to experience. I stood frozen, unable to see my own hands. Unable to see my own hands. Then I heard breathing, directly in front of me. Slow, deep, inhuman. I couldn't move, couldn't think. The breathing continued for several seconds. Then something touched my face. A finger, cold as ice. It traced my cheek gently, almost curiously. I screamed and stumbled backward. At that exact moment, my flashlight suddenly flickered back to life. The tunnel was empty. Nothing stood before me. Yet muddy fingerprints cover my face. I could feel them. I could see them on my hands. Someone, or something, had touched me. I kept moving. Minutes later, I noticed a faint glow ahead. Moonlight. An exit. Relief flooded through me. I ran toward it, bursting from the tunnel into open air. I collapsed on a hillside, gasping, shaking, alive. The forest stretched around me. But it wasn't Black Hollow Forest. I knew immediately. The trees were different. The landscape unfamiliar. Even the stars looked wrong. Then I saw the road, a highway, and a sign. The sign displayed the name of a town located over 300 miles away. I spent the next 2 days finding transportation home. No one believed my story, not even my closest friends. Then I reviewed my camera footage. Most of it had been corrupted. Hours of video reduced to static, except for the final recording. The last 30 seconds survived. I watched it dozens of times. I wish I hadn't. The footage showed me running through the dark tunnel, breathing heavily, terrified. But something else appeared behind me. At first it looked like a shadow. Then the image became clearer. The thing chasing me was enormous. Its body filled the tunnel from floor to ceiling. Long black limbs dragged across the walls. Its face resembled a human skull stretched into impossible proportions. And attached to its neck were chains. Hundreds of broken chains. Trailing behind it. The creature stopped only a few feet from the camera. Then it smiled. Not a predator's smile. Not an animal smile. A human smile. The smile of someone who recognizes an old friend. The recording ended there. I deleted the footage, destroyed the camera, sold my YouTube channel, and never returned to Black Hollow Forest. But 3 months later, I received another anonymous email. No subject, no message, just a single photograph. The image showed my house at night, taken from the woods behind my property. In the bottom corner stood a tall figure, barely visible among the trees, watching. Around its neck hung broken chains, and beneath the picture were 4 words. Almost made it out. I moved the next day, then again 6 months later, then again the year after that. It never mattered. Every few months, another photograph arrives. Different house, different city, same figure, same smile, same broken chains, watching from the tree line, waiting. Because whatever was buried beneath Black Hollow Forest was never trapped underground. The chains weren't keeping it in. They were keeping it asleep. And somehow, when I entered that tunnel, I woke it up. There are places in America where maps become suggestions. Places where the roads narrow into dirt trails, the trees grow too close together, and cell service disappears. Long before the feeling of being watched begins. This happened in northern Montana, and I swear every word is true. My name is Ryan Mercer. 5 years ago, I worked as a wildlife photographer. Most of my assignments involved spending weeks alone in remote forests, documenting animals few people ever saw. I thought I knew the woods. I was wrong. The assignment seemed simple enough. A local conservation group wanted photographs of a rarely seen wolf pack that had been spotted deep inside a section of forest locals called the Whistling Pines. The name came from the sound the wind made when it passed through the trees. At least, that's what everyone claimed. I arrived at a small town near the forest on a rainy October evening. The town looked forgotten. Most of the buildings were decades old, and the streets were nearly empty. At a diner, I met an old man named Walter. When he saw the map spread across my table, his face turned pale. "You heading into the Whistling Pines?" he asked. I nodded. Walter stared at me for several seconds. Then he said something that still haunts me. "If you hear whistling after dark, don't answer it." I laughed. "One." He didn't. "People disappear in there," he continued. "Not many. Just enough." I assumed he was trying to scare the outsider. "You wishy the listenat." The next morning, I drove as far as the road would allow. After that, I continued on foot. The forest was beautiful. Massive pines towered overhead. Sunlight barely reached the ground. The air smelled of wet earth and pine needles. By sunset, I had established camp beside a small creek. Everything seemed normal, until the forest had gone silent. No insects, no birds, nothing. Then I heard it. A whistle. Soft, distant. 3 notes. Almost musical. 2. I sat upright in my sleeping bag. The sound came again, this time closer. I assumed another camper was nearby. Maybe a hunter. Maybe someone trying to locate a friend. I nearly whistled back. Then I remembered Walter's warning. The whistle sounded a third time. Much closer. I unzipped the tent and looked outside. Nothing. Only darkness between the trees. I listened carefully. The whistle came again, directly behind me. I spun around. There was nobody there. I spent the rest of the night awake. By morning, I convinced myself I'd imagined the whole thing. That afternoon, I found wolf tracks leading north. I followed them deeper into the forest. Hours passed. 3. The trees became denser, the sunlight weaker. Then I discovered something strange. An old cabin. It wasn't on any map. The structure looked abandoned for decades. Its windows were broken. Its roof sagged, yet the front doors stood slightly open. I approached cautiously. Inside, dust covered everything. An old wood stove sat in one corner. Rotting furniture filled the room. But what caught my attention were the walls. Names. Hundreds of names. Scratched into the wood. Some dated back 50 years. Others looked recent. I photographed them. Then I noticed a sentence carved repeatedly beneath many of the names. "Don't follow the whistling." The words appeared over and over. 4. As though multiple people had left the same warning. A chill crawled down my spine. I decided to leave. As I stepped outside, I noticed fresh footprints in the mud. They hadn't been there earlier. Someone had walked around the cabin while I was inside. Someone barefoot. The prints disappeared into the trees. I called out. No answer. Only silence. I returned to camp before dark. That night, the whistling returned. Much closer than before. 3 notes. Pause. 3 notes again. I stayed inside my tent. The sound circled my campsite, moving slowly, patiently. At one point, it stopped only a few feet away. I could hear breathing. Heavy. Vet. Something stood outside, watching. I gripped my hunting knife and waited. Minutes passed, then an hour. Eventually, the breathing disappeared. The whistling drifted back into the forest. Morning couldn't arrive fast enough. I packed immediately. My instincts screamed at me to leave, but greed got the better of me. I still hadn't photographed the wolves. I convinced myself to stay one more day. That decision nearly killed me. Around noon, I finally spotted movement among the trees. A wolf, then another, then 6 more. The pack moved silently through the forest. I raised my camera, but something felt wrong. The wolves weren't hunting. They were running. fleeing, as though terrified. Then I saw what they were running from. A figure stood between the trees. Human-shaped. Tall. Far too tall. Its limbs looked unnaturally long. Its skin appeared gray. Hairless. Motionless. The wolves sprinted past it. The creature didn't move. Didn't chase them. It simply stood there, watching me. I lowered the camera. Every survival instinct in my body screamed. Run. The creature tilted its head. Then it whistled. 3 notes. The same whistle. The sound echoed through the forest. Immediately, dozens of whistles answered from every direction. My blood froze. There wasn't one. There were many. I turned and ran. Branches whipped across my face. Roots nearly tripped me. The whistles followed. Closer. Closer. Sometimes ahead of me. Sometimes behind. Always surrounding me. As I sprinted through the trees, I glanced back. I wish I hadn't. Shapes moved among the forest. Tall figures. Dozens of them. Keeping pace. Their movements were wrong. Too smooth. Too fast. Like predators pretending to be human. I ran until sunset. Eventually, I reached the old cabin. The door stood open. I rushed inside and barricaded it. The whistles immediately stopped. Silence filled the forest. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then scratching began. Long fingernails dragged across the walls. Slowly, methodically, the sound moved around the cabin. Searching, testing. The old structure creaked. Dust drifted from the ceiling. Then came the voices. At first I thought they were human. People calling for help. A woman crying. A child screaming. An old man begging. But eventually I realized something horrifying. Every voice was mine. The creatures were imitating me. Different ages. Different emotions. Yet all unmistakably my voice. Outside, dozens of Ryans pleaded for the door to be opened. The scratching continued all night. I didn't sleep. Just before dawn, I heard footsteps walking away. Then silence. Real silence. When morning arrived, I cautiously opened the door. The forest looked normal again. Almost peaceful. But the ground around the cabin told a different story. Hundreds of barefoot tracks surrounded the structure. Hundreds. I didn't stop moving after that. I abandoned thousands of dollars worth of equipment. The camera. The lenses. Everything. All I cared about was escaping. Late that afternoon, I finally reached my truck. I threw myself inside and drove. Only when I reached the highway did I relax. For the first time in 2 days, I felt safe. Then I glanced into the rearview mirror. Someone sat in the back seat. A gray face. Sunken eyes. A mouth stretched impossibly wide. Whistling softly. I slammed on the brakes. The truck skidded sideways. When I looked again, the seat was empty. I told myself exhaustion had caused a hallucination. I needed to believe that. I still do. But here's the problem. When I got home, I reviewed the few photographs that survived. Most showed nothing unusual. Trees. Shadows. The wolf pack. Then I reached the final image. The one taken seconds before I ran. The tall creature stood among the pines. But now I could see what had been hidden by distance. Its body wasn't alone. Faces covered its skin. Hundreds of human faces. Mouths frozen open, as though trapped inside it. One of those faces looked exactly like me. The photograph sits locked in a safe. I'm never shown anyone. Sometimes, late at night, I hear whistling outside my house. 3 notes. Pause. 3 notes again. Always from the woods behind my property. Always getting closer. And every year, on the anniversary of that trip, I wake to find barefoot footprints circling my home. I no longer believe the creatures live only in the whistling pines. I think one of them followed me out, and I think it's still waiting, patiently, for me to answer its whistle.